An entitled Karen claims I'm faking my blindness and lets her kids steal my walking cane, the stick I need to use to walk around. So, a bit of backstory. I'm a 28-year-old woman who just recently went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth group to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina. And while down there, I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult, and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day, my husband asks if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messages again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figure everything in life is an experience, and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first, and I was only grabbing a few things so I didn't need a cart. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer, and I figure maybe I had whacked someone's leg and apologize. Cue entitled kid and entitled Karen mother. I accidentally bumped my cane into someone while I was walking. I said, "Shoot, I'm sorry." Karen goes like, "Hey, you just hit my son." So I apologize, saying, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't see him there." Karen begins yelling, "How could you not see him? He's clearly right here." Now, I'm fully blind, but I don't wear sunglasses. Mostly because I can't afford a good UV blocking pair, but also I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person. But I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum. So I try to calmly explain. "Ma'am, I'm blind. I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane so I can get around without..." She cuts me off. "If you're blind, why aren't you wearing big sunglasses?" Now, as a blind person, I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better, so I try to happily answer as many as I can. Those big sunglasses are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside. Then Karen has the audacity to say, "You're not blind, you're faking it." Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind. It's an actual hell. And nothing pisses me off more than when someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink, I realize this little demon spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping, and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic. "Please give that back. I really do need it." "No you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you." I hear her shuffle away, and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays as such, and they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and end up crashing and falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail, I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. Suddenly, I feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice. We'll call him AG for awesome guy. Asks if I'm okay, and to stay right here. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank, because his footsteps sounded like a giant, and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away, I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion and a loud crash. Then before I know it, the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts my cane into my palm and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me wiping tears from my cheeks. Thank you so much. I didn't know how to handle that." AG tells me not to worry about it and how some people are just monsters. This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screeching of Karen. Something about AG grabbing the cane and pulling hard, flinging her little devil child into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. This woman knowingly and willingly allowed her kid to not only steal from a blind person, but to steal one of the most important things that a blind person could have, to still make it around in this world. I guarantee you she even encouraged it. People like that deserve to be publicly shamed in a town square. Thank God for that awesome dude though, for sure. The bystander effect can be really awful sometimes, but as you said, I'm glad there are good people left in this world. This mom thought it'd be a hilarious prank to have her own son hold up a sign pretending to be kidnapped, so I brought her justice. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any stories. I'm a former police officer who had to retire due to being badly injured, but this is one of my last calls before the incident that forced me into retirement. I worked for a small-town police department with only 5 or 6 officers on duty at a given time, and we each covered a vast swath of land. My beat mainly was the rural area and county highway that passes throughout the little town. One clear sunny afternoon, I'm doing speed enforcement on the highway when my radio crackles to life of a possible kidnapping in progress, and the dispatcher proceeds to provide the details of the make and model of the car, including a female driver with short blonde hair. I proceed to get onto my computer to see if there are any more details given about this, and sure enough, there is. In the call log, it provides even more details saying RP, reporting party, reports there is a young kid sitting in the hatchback part of the vehicle with a sign that says, "Help, I've been kidnapped, call 911, and their hands appear to be tied together. While the call is within our jurisdiction, they're nowhere near me, so there's nothing I can do at the moment besides other officers and sheriff deputies who are already looking for the vehicle. All is quiet for the next 10 minutes. Everybody is behaving themselves and driving the speed limit when my radio crackles to life again. We're getting another call regarding the reported kidnapping. They're now traveling south on County Highway 123, and my ears perk up and my heart starts to race as the vehicle is coming to my direction and will be here any minute. As I'm waiting for the call, dispatch gets 3 more calls from fellow drivers who have seen this young kid holding up the "Help, I've been kidnapped" sign and had called 911 to report it. With this stretch of highway being very flat, I'm able to see cars miles and miles away, especially if I'm using binos. And sure enough, here comes the van, and as the van passes me, I can see the female driver who matches the description given by the RPs, and the kid sitting up against the sidewall in the hatchback area. I don't pull out right away, just in case this is an honest-to-God kidnapping. I don't want to spook the driver and get into a high-speed chase. Not to mention, I'm completely alone. And in this type of situation, you want to have a decent amount of backup in case they decide to run, shoot it out, or whatever. So I wait until she's a good mile or 2 away. Then I pull out and tail her from that distance until I can get some backup. Luckily, there is a highway patrol barracks not too far away, and they heard my call for assistance. Just as we pass the road that leads to the highway patrol barracks, I see 4 trooper vehicles pull out behind me. So I fall back and let the troopers take lead in case this turned into a chase. They'd already be in position. While we're getting into position to stop the van, we're talking about how we're going to approach the situation. Are we going to do a soft traffic stop and proceed as a regular traffic stop and just pull the driver out of the vehicle? Or are we going to do a full felony stop? We decided to do a full felony stop, so we spread out across all 4 lanes of traffic and all turn out lights and blip our sirens at the same time. The female doesn't pull over to the side of the highway in the breakdown lane, but instead slammed on the brakes and stops in the middle of the highway. We all position our vehicles to give us the maximum amount of coverage in case of a gunfight, then get out with weapons drawn while ordering the female driver out of the vehicle. We should have known something was up when as soon as she got out of the vehicle, she started screaming, "It was a fucking joke!" But right now, we're not too interested in what she has to say. The point man keeps telling her to keep walking backward until we tell her to stop, and then get down on the ground. She complies, and she's cuffed. Next, we turn our attention to the female passenger, whom we didn't know at the time, as we couldn't see her face, was the female driver's 13-year-old daughter. But nonetheless, we ordered her backward to get on the ground and cuffed her. We did this for the next 4 passengers who were riding in the 4 seats in the back of the van. Once we got all perceived threats out of the vehicle and secured 2 troopers who went up to clear the vehicle, while another trooper and myself rescued the young boy who was bawling from the hatchback and put him in the back of one of our vehicles to get him away from his perceived kidnappers. The whole time, mind you, the driver and front female passengers kept yelling, "It's a joke! He's my son/brother! I can't believe you guys!" So after securing everybody in separate vehicles, we start to get to the bottom of the situation. The first person we talked to is the young boy who has since calmed down after the female trooper got him a stuffed dinosaur and a snack, and began to start asking him questions. This is when we learned the whole thing was the female driver's and her daughter's sick idea of a funny prank, since the van was full, and they decided to put the young kid in the hatchback. They thought it would be funny to make a sign saying, "Help, I've been kidnapped," and have the young boy hold it up while someone else in the van recorded the reaction of other drivers after they read the sign. Apparently, they've been doing it all day, and just didn't get caught until they reached my area. After talking to the other passengers, who were all under the age of 16, and learned it was mainly the idea of the mother and teen daughter, and after some discussion with the county DA and how it should be handled, we were told to kick the 4 teenagers in the back loose with no charges, to write the teenage daughter the juvenile equivalents of a ticket for inducing panic, and last but not least, save the best for mom. I opened the back door of my vehicle so I could talk to the mom. As soon as I did, She started to get out of the vehicle. When I told her to stay put, she said, "Why? Don't you need to take the handcuffs off me so I can sign the ticket you're gonna give me, right?" I said, "It's not quite that simple. I'm afraid you're in a bit more trouble than a simple ticket. You're gonna be charged with several felonies." This is when she lost it and started screaming over and over again. It was a fucking joke. I can't believe nobody can take a fucking joke anymore. It was a joke. Now uncuff me or I'm gonna have my husband sue you for unlawful detention. I proceeded to read her Miranda warning, all the while she starts sobbing with no tears, I might add, while muttering it was a fucking joke. After I finished with her Miranda warning, I asked her if she was willing to talk to me. She told me to fuck off. I did just that and shut the door to let her wait for the transport vehicle. By this time, the husband and father had shown up at the scene to collect his kids, and the vehicle was filled in on the situation. All he could do is shake his head and say, "This isn't the first time she's done stupid crap like this before. It's just the first time she's been caught, and I've warned her in the past not to do it because I knew it would end up in a situation like this." After about 10 minutes, the transport van showed up and took her away, and I went back to a quiet afternoon of catching speeders. The female driver was charged with the following: 7 counts of inducing panic, all misdemeanor, 6 counts of felony child endangerment, 1 for each kid she had in the vehicle. Reason it was a felony is that her actions put her children's lives in danger by forcing us to do a felony stop over a prank/joke. 1 count of having an unrestrained child. She decided to put her 6-year-old son in the hatchback of the van because they didn't have any room up front. Well, none of those kids should have been back there. I'd rather one of the older kids instead of the 6-year-old. The reason why? Because the other boys were too tall and wouldn't have been comfortable back there. This is a wild story. Imagine how many potential car accidents she could have caused by encouraging her son to startle people with that kidnap sign. Not to mention what could have happened if she had crashed during the emergency stop when the police pulled her over, especially since her 6-year-old was not even buckled into the vehicle. I hope that kid's in a better place now. If you enjoyed these stories, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Check out the other videos on your screen right now. Otherwise, you're definitely the jerk.